This is Isaac Keen. Hashtag Intern Isaac. This is Monday Motivation.
No, that's not how we do it. This is Monday Motivation.
Now that's how it's done, young sir.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Now that everyone is awake.
What we wanted to talk about today is learning from everyone. We learned from Intern Isaac. Intern Isaac from us. And I had a little bit of a breakthrough again this weekend.
Epiphany?
Always. Just having them left and right because I'm trying to learn from everyone.
Love it.
So,
by the way, just a quick comment. I swear to God, every time I have to do a quick comment in the beginning, Daniel dressed 3-piece suit on a Sunday. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
No
I think the epiphany must have been just ridiculous.
It always is. But so this week, I've been reading Trump's Art of the Deal. Shout out to Trump.
Hashtag Trump.
Right. And I was telling some of my friends about it, and it was a little bit of a controversial topic where, you know, they were like, what are you reading about? Building walls? And I'm like, no, this is from 1986, I believe the book was written. He was, at the time, a pretty staunch Democrat.
It was huge.
Right.
Number one bestseller.
But the point is, you know, they're equating who they characterize him to be as a person and his political views, which they disagree with.
Right. And also, we're not condemning or condoning. We're just mainly just stating, you know, his book. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about the book in general. Yeah. And, you know, they came out with, you know, a negative viewpoint about me reading this book. And, you know, my argument.
Have they read it?
Of course not.
Of course not. Exactly.
Right. And, you know, you don't necessarily have to agree with someone on all points in life to be able to learn from them. And regardless, I think you can't really make the argument that he's not a successful businessman.
No matter how you spin it. Even I feel the same way. You know, some people say, well, you know, his dad gave him like $1 million or left him $1 million to do this and that. But I mean, that's just circumstantial, you know?
Right. And I feel like I have access to $1 million right now through other investors that I work with. And I currently don't have it run up to $1 billion company and a presidency. So there is some success that, you know, he is responsible for, and you have to give some credit where credit is due. And even though, you know, I may not personally agree with him on everything, I do definitely respect some of the business acumen and can learn some of the lessons that he's putting forward.
No, I think that's a good point, the way you said, you know, well, you may have access to $1 million. It doesn't take away from your work ethic or how you work, how hard you work to get things done.
Yeah, no question.
You know, it doesn't mean that around every corner there's a handout and things fall into your lap and you're just slaying deals left or right without any real effort.
Right. You're pretty limited too if you're only taking advice and listening to people that you agree with on a moral and political basis.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can't really take advice from Thomas Jefferson, you know, any of the founding fathers, really. Those guys arguably a lot more racist than a lot of people that we deal with today, right? So we disagree with a lot of things that people do, but they are still, you know, some senses of accomplishment that you can glean from that and, you know, try and apply that to your life.
Yeah, you don't want to dismiss everybody just because of a few different clashing opinions and views. I think this translates into mentors, and I've had quite a few mentors in my day where, you know, my parents were not my financial or business gurus mentors. I had somebody else, but they were my mentors for instilling family values and stuff like that. So I think it's important to acknowledge and be open to take information and little bits of information from people that you that seem credible to you, or that you're not as dismissive about their entire viewpoint just because of one thing.
Right. No matter who it is, it's important to listen to them. And I think if you can try and empathize and see their point of view and understand how they're coming to the conclusions that they are, it's going to make you a much more compassionate person.
Yep.
And it's going to strengthen your relationship with them, as well as provide you with more context, more understanding in your life. So in future, you know, whether it be personal, whether it be business interactions with them, you can relate to them and at least understand what they're coming from, what they're trying to accomplish, and, you know, hopefully help them get where they want to be, and they can do the same for you.
Right. How do you feel about this, Isaac? That you're half our age, well, half Daniel's age.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this the other day. I just had my grad party and I had all those books written out. I think Daniel wrote in one. It was those books that I had written out, and people were just giving me advice and like saying things I should look out for college and all that. It was all really good advice, but then I'd like have to take a step back sometimes and realize like you kind of have to be picky with your advice. Like financially, there's certain people that I would take advice from rather than, as much as I hate to say it, I should always trust my family, but in some situations I can't trust my family for the best advice, and that's why I look to you guys and the more business savvy and entrepreneurial people in my life to give me that solid.
Right. But it's good to have a bunch of different networks,
sure.
You know what I mean? Because you can get a lot of different information put together. Because clearly your family had a huge impact on who you are now,
sure.
and still continues to. They developed you into the person that now has the insight to say, hey, I'm going to look elsewhere too, and I'm going to try and get a few different points of view. Mm-hmm. So, kudos to Tammy.
Yeah, love Tammy.
Right. No, I think you're you're going in the right direction just by having an open mind, and I think that's
it's really not being cynical to other people's viewpoints and takeaways.
Going back to your story and the discussion that you had with your friends, Daniel, regarding that Art of the Deal book, where opinions are formulated and advice is dispensed when you don't have the facts or when you don't have all the data, and that's when usually you have disagreements, when you don't understand each other's side. So I think it's really important for somebody that is open-minded and the ability to like seek out information and ability to do research to actually get some concrete information, and then say, before I blow up on this person regarding their opinion, let me do some research or think about, what I'm going to say, how I'm going to approach it, and be receptive. I think you're going to have a much richer dialogue.
Yeah, as soon as you start characterizing someone else as just a cartoon character, I think that's dangerous. So
yes,
we'll use Trump as an example again.
Yeah.
Number one, I think if you're very anti-Trump, you can look at it and say, you shouldn't be trying to learn anything from him as a successful entrepreneur, businessman, developer, etc. And you're all costing yourself some information, right? You're not seeing the path that he took, and therefore you won't be able to necessarily replicate it or add that arsenal to your skill set. At the same time, too, is if your goal is to be very, very anti-Trump still, which, a lot of people are, and that's completely fine. Mm-hmm. It's, when you characterize him just as an orange buffoon, walking around just saying whatever comes out of off the top of his head, I think you're doing your cause a disservice as well by not understanding him, because realistically, he's probably, and a lot of times your opposition has some very in-depth, detailed reasoning for why they're behaving the way that they are. And if you just characterize them as an idiot, say, you're underestimating them, and that's dangerous. You never want to underestimate someone that you don't agree with or that you consider to be your enemy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when going for Trump, people are judging him what he's doing now for how long he's been president, and they're judging him on the decisions he's made. But I think people are forgetting the reason why he got elected is because of his career and how successful he was. And people aren't giving him a chance. Like he got elected because of the business he built, not being a president before. So he's going off people need to rely on his past and trust the decision he's made instead of just rely on what he's doing now.
Right. I mean, the whole political and presidency is such a touchy subject. Again, your success in business doesn't correlate to success while running the biggest, the baddest office in the world. And if you're good at being a president, if whoever your number one president is, doesn't mean that if you put them in the business environment that they're going to be stellar and awesome. But again, going back to your conversation, Daniel, you basically the conversation was not about his presidency, but it was about the book and the art of the deal and specific to business. But again, the opinions were formulated based on his presidency, not by your opposition.
Yeah, and my point is, and I guess I can just put it out there where I think just based on what's happening right now in the track record, I think so far he's probably the worst president that I've seen. Things could change, could turn around. Who knows? Like, there's a lot of
to put things in perspective.
We might not see the vision yet, but.
And to put things in perspective, without actually claiming any one side, is that the information that you're ingesting is from maybe a couple different sources. It's not in its entirety. Just like no one can have the full and clear picture of what's actually happening behind the scenes. Everyone is getting the information from the internet, from the news and stuff like that. So who knows what's true, what's not true. And myself, not being super into politics, I'm just really kind of I know it's there, but I don't really pay much attention to it.
And I think that's true for most, business people, where it's like, yeah, there is a little bit of a political leaning, perhaps one way or the other, but you're so focused on your business that's the priority, right? What's going to help or hurt your business?
I think Gary Vee he started off his this corporate seminar basically saying, if you think Hillary or Trump getting elected is somehow going to influence your life or your financial status, etc., then he basically said, it was like, then you are fucking stupid. So that was a kickoff.
Hopefully we bleep that.
that was a kickoff to this big, huge corporate event. And I think, to an extent, that's 100% true. Everyone that's looking for an easy way out is looking for someone else to solve their problems, when in fact it's never going to happen like that, not to anyone's satisfaction.
Right. But I going back to the point though is, I disagree, I think, with a lot of the Trump administration's policies, but I'm still willing to read the book and try and take what I can out of it.
Perfect example.
And I think, just the same way too is if you're a business owner and you're very, very pro-Trump, we know a lot of those people as well.
Right.
It's like, well, there might be some benefit and you might gain a lot of insight, knowledge, understanding of appealing to a lot more of your customer base and just expanding your thinking if you read a book by Bernie Sanders as well, understanding all spectrums of the business. There's a lot of different ways to get the same result, and you have to find every single source that you can to learn as much as you can as quickly as possible. And if you just get it from one source over and over again, as much as we love him, if we only listened to Grant Cardone about sales, about business, we'd have a very one-sided view.
Exactly.
And there's so many other approaches, styles that we can, fit in there and that may actually fit us more as individuals too.
Right, exactly. No, I think, you mentioned it, that you disagree with a lot of his decisions, etc., but yet you were like, hey, I'm going to be open to get advice from this person who I don't think is doing, a great job or whatnot. You went out. Did you buy the book? Did you download it? Okay, so you constantly like, hey, I'm going to get this book because I need to see what this is all about in order to get more information. I'm going to be open about it, which is, what sparked you to even have that approach. Is that you're like, man, I just disagree with a lot of these things. I got to go buy his book.
Cindy Coble actually recommended it to me.
Okay.
Shout out to Cindy Coble over at Title Smart. But she was like, hey, it's a great business book. It's, you burn through it really quickly. I'm like, great, I'll check it out. And I mean, it's very anecdotal, the book. You can read through it in a weekend really easily.
Can we get some nuggets?
From Trump?
From the book, yeah. Something that stood out for you.
One thing that he mentioned that I thought was very interesting was from very early on in his career, he really focused on branding and thought that branding was extremely, extremely important. So he and his father were in business together to some capacity, and they were developing houses and selling them for a profit. And this is at a point in their career where, like $1 million is a lot of money to them.
Right.
And as it is to all of us.
Right.
So this isn't $1 billion Donald Trump, right? This is more of him in his infancy building this company. And he worked out a deal with the state of New York, or the city, I guess, to develop a convention center in downtown right when the housing market was going through a lot of trouble, a lot of problems, basically.
Yep.
And he bought the deal and was able to resell it, and was going to resell it for an $866,000, I believe, profit, which is a lot of money. It would have really helped the business grow. Mm-hmm. And his point was, I will waive that fee and sell it to the next person to save the city money so they're able to continue to develop it if you call it the Trump Convention Center. Because he saw the value, even though at that point it would have been really valuable to have the money, to have his name attached to where all these business people are getting together and meeting. And I think that just shows a lot of foresight and kind of sacrificing now for the future.
Right. I mean, $800,000 is not a big deal to him now, but it was probably a huge deal. And he was just like, you know what? I'm looking for something much, much bigger.
Yeah. If someone offered me $800,000 so I could have my name on a building, I think before I read this book, I definitely would have taken the $800,000.
Now it's Krakowski building.
Yeah, no doubt. So, just really, try and keep an open mind. I guess that's my point. When I'm having a political discussion with someone or a business discussion, one great example from our office, I'll give you one more and then we can maybe sign it off here.
Let's do it.
But, the way that I try and transact, especially if I'm working with another agent, and Goran knows this because, he's heard my advice and recommendations espoused maybe more than he'd always like. But, when I'm in a negotiation, I'm pretty cutthroat. I'm really, really, the other side, this is a professional. This is someone who's in this industry. They should be as prepared to go as I do. But, I'm saying, get our offer accepted. 2 hours, our offer goes down $5,000. What can you do? Like, just a lot of really hard negotiating tactics. And we also have another agent named Nicole Murray, who is excellent. She's thriving right now, doing extremely well. And, her approach is a lot softer in pretty much everything that she does. Yeah, we're polar opposites. And a lot of our meetings, I ask her what she would do, and I say what I would do, and let everyone else know that they'll probably fall somewhere in that spectrum. And, what I've learned from her very recently is, I need her opinion. I need her advice because, again, so many people are going to fall in between us that I need her to know, okay, this is the limit on the other end. Maybe I should adjust it and try and be somewhere in between this spectrum a little bit more. And each situation calls for a different tool, right? Sometimes you need the velvet glove. Sometimes you need the iron fist. And if you're just focused on iron fist all the time, you're never going to be able to get that velvet glove perspective unless you're willing to talk to someone who thinks that way and truly, truly listen to them.
Boom.
There it is. Well, we'll wrap it up. Thanks, Isaac, for being here. Goran, always a pleasure.
You too, sir.
And we'll see you guys next week.